Welcome back to the Leaderonomics show. We have Stephen Lundin with us. Stephen, welcome back. How do organizations get out of the norm?
I don't think organizations do anything.
Okay. Do they need to?
I don't think organizations do anything. I think organization is a conceptual myth that gets in our way. That's a useful one. I understand. I'm playing with you here.
Sure.
It's a useful myth that there is this thing, an organization, but the truth is what you find when you go looking for an organization is people.
Yep.
So it's people that you need to help, and in large numbers we sometimes call that an organization.
Okay.
It's still people.
Right.
So the organization isn't taking care of you. The people in the organization are.
Yep. Exactly.
Organization isn't friendly. The people in the organization are friendly.
Right.
Customer centric. It's people that are customer centric, not an organization.
So it's really about getting a person to get out of its comfort zone and
one person at a time.
Yep.
One person at a time.
And then the aggregation of that creates an organization.
The more people you have who are pursuing the development of their innovative capabilities, the better, more likely you are to find things, create things, change things. Yep.
What's your thoughts? Was it fourth step?
The fourth, fifth, and sixth, they're all about provocation.
Okay.
Provocation is what pushes you outside the norm. You need an outside help. You know, you need a little help to escape the stuff that's so comfortable. Yeah. And you can be provoked by events and real things. You can be provoked by other people. You can be provoked by thoughts.
How do you get provoked by events?
Well, they provoke you because they happen.
Okay, for example?
So in terms of the way they happen to you, the example I used today in the seminar was the bridge collapse, which forced people to take new routes to work, which allowed them to see things they hadn't seen before. Some of those things were useful. That's it. That's getting outside the norm. But it took a provocation to make it happen. Otherwise,
so when you have a crisis, you have a...
That's one kind of provocation. Another kind of provocation is just bringing to a discussion objects. You know, at IDEO they've got a whole box full of stuff, neat stuff they call it. You know, things that look odd. You know, two balls that look exactly the same. One bounces, the other one dies right there. It doesn't bounce at all. And you know, they bring this kind of stuff in as a part of the conversation to be provoked. And sometimes the material that they're looking at actually becomes useful. And for instance, the ball that didn't bounce became useful in a ruggedized computer that was prepared for the Army, which kept it safe because it had this absorbent material as a part of it. So, and you know, people can provoke you. I think we all understand that. Some of us get. You know, when people provoke us, we go the wrong direction, and that is kind of resist, etc. Not all provocation is welcome, but if you can have a mindset of just what we call juicing the jam, accepting provocations, and rather than resisting,
juicing the jam.
Juicing the jam.
What does that mean?
Well, a jam happens. Something happens to you. Relates. You know, somebody comes into your space and does something awkward or untoward or upsetting, rather than resist it. Yeah, it's already happened. So like a street performer, see if you can't find some energy in it.
We were just talking about provocation, and you're talking about this juice the jam, right? Yes. So, you know, in our organization settings, business settings, how do you juice the jam?
Well, when you feel yourself resisting something, when another human being brings something into your space that you feel yourself resisting, rather than just let it go at that, ask yourself the question, you know, what's going on here? What is it that's disturbing me? What is the normal inside of me that is fighting against this thing that's happening outside of me? It can be a provocation. Just that analysis can be a provocation, and you see inside you allow it to take you to a different place.
So basically, take advantage of situations that you kind of may look at it in a negative way. You talked about street performers. And you were giving an example of street performers just now. How does that work?
Well, I did some documentary footage with street performers in London and in Ireland and in the Renaissance festivals of the United States, and we came up with this idea of top performer because the top street performers aren't the ones that are good acrobats or great magicians, etc. There's another quality, and the best of the street performers aren't necessarily the best in terms of talent, but they're best in terms of engaging people. So they understand how to connect with people in a way that releases energy, and they're constantly working on that interpersonal connection. On reflection, the fishmongers at Pike Place Fish, from the old book Fish, they're really street performers of a kind. They haven't been trained as street performers, but when you look at what they do, they really behave that way in the best way.
When there's a provocation, they take advantage of that.
Well, a drunk stumbles into the center of the circle, or a child cries, or somebody, you know, whatever. Rather than get angry about the drunk, rather than, you know, try to pretend that the things don't happen, the great street performers bring it right in as part of their material.
And you were saying what, step 7, 8, 9, right?
Well, life number 6 is imaginary provocation. That's just provocation. It's kind of an intellectual exercise where you throw a word or something into the mix and see where it takes you. 7 and 8 are both about failure, and life 7 is about understanding that failure is a part of learning. And
people always say that, you know.
Yeah,
it's almost
it's easy
like,
to say.
It's easy to say, but how do you almost build a process so that organizations can actually allow people to fail? I mean, you talked a lot about IDEO. Is there something that they do there that enables failure to happen multiply and then benefit from it? Or?
Well, what needs to happen is the people in power need to behave in a way that accepts failure. So it's the individual management connection is what creates the space for failure. On the other hand, it's important for all of us to understand the role of mistakes in our learning, and that you can do if you create the right kinds of images and examples. You quickly come to see that very little in your life has happened because of success. Most of it has happened because you've learned from making mistakes. Success by itself doesn't teach an awful lot. But a mistake does. When you're going in the wrong, I don't want to get too deep into that area, it gets kind of philosophical pretty quickly. But failure, you know, failure, the thing to say about failure is what my friend Tony Buzan says, and that is when it happens, you say, how fascinating, what can I learn from this, let's move on. The second part of failure, life number 8, is if failure is a part of the process, and if failure is fundamental to learning, let's get the learning as early as we can. And so there comes the idea of rapid prototyping. Rapid prototyping is get as many ideas out there, many models out there, many routine options out there early on, talk about them, narrow them down, combine, subtract, whatever, and then talk about them again, so that when you get to the time where you have to deliver what it is to deliver, your failures are out of the way. It doesn't happen at the end.
And you can replicate that also in terms of leadership development, right?
Yes.
You allow leaders to fail early on, so they...
I had a friend who used to study leaders who failed at the top job. And in every case, they were people that passed through the organizations without getting scathes. They're on a fast track, they, you know, et cetera, talent, et cetera. And they weren't allowed to fail and work through a failure. So they never learned how to do it. When they failed, they went like this, cut off all communication, made the matter worse. And
we're going to take another quick break, and then we'll be right back with Stephen Lundin.